school year. This video is going to be covering categorical variables. Before we start talking about what categorical variables are, first we're going to talk about the distribution of a variable. The distribution of a variable is pretty much what values a variable has, and then also how often we see each of those values. Okay. Now specifically we're going to be talking about categorical variables today. Categorical variables, another name for them is also, they are called qualitative variables. Okay. Basically that means variables that they take on values that are names or labels. Okay? Some examples of this would be, we could look at the breed of a dog. Okay, like German Shepherd, Pit Bull, so on. Those are all categorical variables. Or let's say we had a bunch of colored balls. Well, the color of each ball would be a categorical variable. Red, green, blue, yellow, so on. Okay? Well, let's look at some of the ways we can work with these categorical variables. Here you'll see we have a set of data. This is just a sample from 1,200 college students that we asked about their body image. And each student gave us either overweight, about right, underweight. Those would be our categorical variable. Okay, body image. Now, if we had some data like this, what's some information we'd be interested to get from this data? Well, one thing could be what percentage of students would be in each category. Another thing we could be asking about is, do those percentages follow a pattern of some sort? Okay, so those are two questions we could be asking from a situation like this. Well, let's look at the exact numbers we got from our 1,200 students. Okay, as you can see here, we have 855 said about right, 235 said overweight, and 110 of the 1,200 said underweight. Well, we want to go ahead and convert that to a percentage. If you do not remember how to convert to a percentage, the way we convert to a percentage is we take the number we got, in this case 855, we divide by the total, and then we multiply that times 100. Okay? So if we put this in our calculator and we multiply that one out, we would get 71.3%. And then we would do the same for the other two categories. For overweight, we would do 235 divided by 1,200 times 100. And that ends up giving us 19.6%. And for underweight, we would do 110 divided by 1,200 times 100. And that would give us 9.2%. Now, an important fact to remember is, since we had 1,200 total, if we added all of these up together, then our total percentage should always be 100%. Now, We're going to look at taking categorical variables and putting them into a graphical display. Some examples of graphical displays here are pie charts, bar charts. Okay. We're also going to look at pictograms. So here again, pie charts, bar charts, and pictograms. Those are all examples of types of graphical displays that will show us a categorical variable. All right. Well, first off, we look at the pie chart. Notice the pie chart is simply split up by the percentage, and each percentage of the circle corresponds to the percentage that each category had as its value. Pie charts, I feel like you guys should be pretty familiar with. You see these pretty early on in school. Now let's look at a bar chart. If we took those same values and we placed them into a bar chart is simply just we have each category along the bottom. See, our first category is about right. And we simply would draw a bar up to the value for the count for each. If we look at the count for each, for about right, we have 855. So that would fall somewhere right about here between 8 and 900. And we would simply just draw a bar that went up to that level. For overweight, our count is 235. So we would go right here, a third of the way between 200 and 300. And we would draw our bar. And for underweight, our count was 110. So we would go a little bit over 100, and we would draw our bar. Now, bar charts you've also seen, probably since elementary school. You should be pretty familiar with drawing these and creating these. Now, one thing you may not be used to is, well, what if we took those percentages and we now graph them into a bar chart instead of the counts for each number of students? Well, the percentage for about right was 71.3. So we could go a little bit over 71. Draw our bar. The percentage for overweight was 19.6, so that's going to be right at about 20. And the percentage for underweight was 9.2, which would be a little bit below 10%. Okay. So those are bar charts. Well, let's look at a couple questions about these bar charts. First says, well, what is the difference between the two bar charts? Well, the main difference is the first chart we did by count of students. How many students were in each category? The second bar chart we did by percentage of students out of the 1,200. And that's two ways we can write those bar charts with a categorical variable like this. So, what do the results suggest about how students are divided across the three body image categories? Well, the main thing I said is they're not equally divided. Into the three categories. And we can actually use the next question to sort of add to that results. How do a vast majority of the students, 71.3%, feel about their weight? Well, 71.3%, which is a majority of the students, feel that they are about right. And the middle group of students, the 19.6%, feel that they are overweight. And And the one that occurs the least often was our underweight. All right. Now, while both the pie chart and the bar chart can help us visualize the distribution of a categorical variable, the pie chart shows us the relationship to the whole. So how many, what percentage out of the whole? It shows it a lot clearer than the bar chart does. And the bar chart will show us how each category compares to the others. Okay, so a pie chart shows us the relationship of each category to the whole being the 1,200 students in this case. And the bar chart shows us how each category, okay, underweight, overweight, about right, compare to each other. Okay? Now, if we look at these three pictures, we are looking at some examples of pictograms. A pictogram is basically a bar chart, a pie chart, a chart of some sort, that instead of using bars or the normal circle pie, we might substitute in pictures of some sort. Okay? These are often used with advertising, things of that nature. Now, you do have to be careful with these because since they are used for advertising, sometimes they can be a little bit misleading. In your assignment that you're going to do today, you're actually going to have a chance to create one of these pictograms. So take a careful look at these, and then you can start working on the practice problems.